Okay, so Jameis Winston is
One thing my trainer, he told me, he said, what did he say?
An interception for a touchdown.
The horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. So I'm dependent on the Lord.
Once in a generation, there is an enigma like Jameis Winston. His entire existence is begging for a video to be made about him. There has never and will never be another Jameis Winston in the league's history, and his story is one of the most complex, shockingly dark, and wild rides that I've ever looked into, and to me that makes him the weirdest player that I've ever watched over my entire miserable existence as a fan of this brown ball sport. So let old Tub Frog over here entail you on the full story of famous Jameis Winston. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Oh, where do we even start? So Jameis Winston went to high school and college, and immediately was a ridiculous prospect, ranked as the number 2 quarterback in high school, and he was 100% going to be one of two things in life. A successful quarterback, or okay then, I won't ask further questions. He then took his talents to Florida State, fumbled, and was the consensus top pick in football. Well, except it wasn't because he was a 100% surefire generational talent, because compared to other picks like Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, Winston was way behind them. But everyone was sure the number 1 and number 2 picks would be quarterbacks Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. The two quarterbacks who just faced off in the Rose Bowl would go to either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Tennessee Titans, but to many, the Bucs, who held the number 1 pick, should have taken the obvious quarterback, and the decision in front of them seemed clear. Yeah, Mariota was a good guy and won a fair amount, but looking at the film, Jameis had everything you could ever ask for. A big, strong man, insane football IQ, incredible arm strength. He could make any throw in the field, won a Heisman while only losing a singular game in college, so what could have possibly been the issue? We'll talk about it more in a season or two, but it wasn't all goofiness surrounding him, and this is why he was so polarizing in the 2015 NFL Draft. But Tampa Bay was willing to take a chance on Jameis, and thus, the career of quite possibly the most clownish player football has ever seen was born. Jameis Winston's debut was anticipated, to say the least. From the beginning, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that he was going to be the starter in Tampa, which meant... Sorry, give me a minute. Sadly, the Glennon was sidelined, and famous Jameis had the reins all year, and week 1 was the perfect matchup. Honestly, I feel like if all week 1s involved a rookie quarterback duel, that'd be pretty hype. Roger, you taking notes? I think we should get that done. But we got Bucs versus Titans, Winston versus Mariota. So clearly whoever lost this game was just the wrong pick, right? And so the duel began. Here he came onto the field, the franchise...
Intercepted! Touchdown Titans!
Well, it did turn out to be a duel to see if Jameis Winston's passion for seeing other men's asses in the end zone could outweigh his growing considerations to call it a career at halftime. He could not have had a worse start. Pick 6 on his first NFL play. He got blown out by near 30 points, and Marcus Mariota played the best game any rookie has ever played, statistically at least. And NFL fans do what NFL fans do best. Marcus Mariota is the second coming of Abraham Lincoln, and Jameis Winston is the worst pick in the history of sports. So that's good. Jameis Winston was really happy that his last college game and his first NFL game involved Mariota steaming his ham for 60 minutes straight. But could he bounce back? Could Jameis Winston prove to be the potential franchise-altering number 1 pick he was believed to become? Well, sort of. Jameis from week 10 on was pretty damn okay. He averaged 260 yards, 1.4 touchdowns, 0.9 picks, and an 84.2 passer rating, which is like pretty okay. For example, Caleb Williams had better stats across the board last season, and I'd say he flashed a ton of potential to be special, and Jameis did a lot of the same. In the best game of his career to this point, in week 7, he balled out. He had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and with a 24-0 lead to the Dan Schneider-led Skins, they blew the lead. But before we continue, I gotta talk to you about this video sponsor, Transparent Labs, and their grass-fed whey protein isolate is super clean. Like, seriously, the ingredient list, as you can see here, is very short and natural and full of stuff that you can, actually read, which is always nice. And really, it's just here to help you hit your protein goals, and that's just kind of perfect for me, and probably is for you as well. And guess what? It actually tastes pretty good, because I've been loving the milk chocolate flavor here. It kind of just does it for me. It's always been my favorite flavor, and also it's easy on the stomach too. And they also have 14 other naturally flavored options to choose from, which, if you're like me and you get a little bored, then you can switch it up sometimes and keep things fresh. Each scoop is also packed with 28 grams of protein, all from grass-fed sources. There's no dyes, no fillers, no artificial sweeteners, and it's all third-party tested, so you know exactly what you're putting in your body. It's clean, simple, and there's no nonsense whatsoever. So if you want to give Transparent Labs a shot, just check out the link in the description or the pinned comment, and for a limited time, every grass-fed protein subscription comes with a free protein starter kit, complete with a shaker bottle, and as you can see here, 5 single serving packs in their best flavors. So you can try them all out and pick your favorite, and when you click the link in the description or the pinned comment, or you can scan the QR code on the screen here, you also get 10% off your next order, which will apply at checkout. So thanks again to Transparent Labs for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let's get back to the video. But that's besides the point, okay? This rookie year was overwhelmingly positive. He had another game with 5 touchdowns. He became the 3rd rookie in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards in a season, and was even named an alternate Pro Bowler because Tom Brady was a busy man. And you know what? He didn't even really have interception problems, which was a huge sigh of relief for Bucs fans. Like, whew. Could you imagine if Jameis had these issues? Because yes, 15 picks isn't like nothing, but for rookie quarterbacking seasons, 15 is not even close to the top 30 for most picks in a year. And there were so many positives, like I've been saying. He was 6th in the league in big-time throws with 39, 5th in average depth of target at 10.3, and his Madden rating was an 81. I'm sorry, man. I asked AI to try to make me a picture for this graphic. I'm sorry. This is That is not Jameis Winston. But Jameis still had a lot of adjusting to do. He was, number one, the franchise player of a completely new team that never really had a good quarterback ever, but he also said it was really difficult to adjust to, losing, because he didn't do that very often in college, and Jameis routinely would just cry in the locker room after losses. But veterans went over to him and said, you know what, buddy, it's okay, because we're going to do a lot of losing in your time here, so you better get used to it. And to add even more pressure, anytime a quarterback goes number 1 and number 2, they're always going to be compared for their entire careers. And the discussion between who would be the better player in 2016 between Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota was a steamy one. But most thought Jameis was not only the better player with a higher ceiling, but 2016 could be a real dark horse MVP year for Jameis Winston. A trap that many sophomore quarterbacks get thrown into. Now, in the game of football, a good quarterback can't just do everything, and it was up to general manager Jason Litch to bring in some talent to help the new franchise quarterback. And I know this is a Jameis only video, okay, but I don't know what in the Alex Leatherwood the Bucs cooked up in the 2016 offseason, but it is a miracle they didn't lose half of their fan base because of this one singular draft. I mean, in the 2016 draft, the Bucs did not get a singular consistent starter, which is very difficult to even accidentally do, as first-round pick Vernon Hargreaves III was terrible, but God, I love this so much. In the 2nd round of the draft, they already used 1 second-round pick, and they missed, of course, but they had their eyes on a game-changing player and traded back into the 2nd round and drafted Roberto Aguayo, a fucking kicker, in the 2nd round. They gave the Chiefs 2 additional draft picks so they could get back in the 2nd round and draft a kicker. To be fair, he was a generational talent. I mean, nobody does wealth management quite like Roberto. But the offense was projecting to be okay, if not very good. Doug Martin, the franchise running back, the muscle hamster, the best nickname I've seen in the last 10 years, was finally healthy, and other guys like Austin Seferian-Jenkins and Mike Evans returning from injury with a new head coach now and a new offensive coordinator, the Bucs came out of the gate flaming. And I mean, just, you might as well give him the Super Bowl already.
Looking for Evans, and he's got it for a touchdown!
Do it to him, Jameis. Do it to him, man. Oh, there are so few things I enjoy more in life than the Week 1 NFL MVP ladder. It's always so wrong, but it's amazing. Jameis Winston was the front runner, as in Week 1, and I don't know how this is like a theme with him, but Week 1 Jameis Winston might be the best player of all time. But this week, he had 4 touchdowns with only 1 pick. I mean, he really played a great game, and all the offseason training and patience was paying off. He was a new player in every regard, and his time had finally come. Well, I mean, I could play up the drama if I wanted and pretend like I'm shocked, but we both aren't. We have hindsight, and we know who Jameis Winston is at his core, and this entire 2016 season involved Bucs fans getting repeatedly, and I mean repeatedly, just teased and cucked over and over and over again. So that was pretty bad. Going from 4 touchdowns to 4 picks is not what you want to see from your young quarterback, and Week 3 versus an awful, and I mean Jeff Fisher, awful Rams team was literally the most free bounce back game ever, and they did take advantage of it, sort of. Jameis had a good game. He threw 58 passes, sweet mercy, but he had 400 yards and 3 tutties, so that's good. But the ending to this game, still to this day, is one of the single most baffling collapses you will ever see. Let me break it down for you. Here we are. 2 minutes remaining. Bucs have the ball at the 45-yard line, 2 timeouts, and they need a touchdown. A perfect test for Jameis Winston. And early on, things started out perfectly, until they didn't. Vincent Jackson dropped a pass, rest in peace, and then backup Charles Sims stayed in bounds. Coach Dirk did not call a timeout for reasons that the universe still cannot explain the entire drive, and now, with 14 seconds left on 3rd and 15, they not only still had 2 timeouts, but luckily the Rams gave them a freebie, and they got a better chance to score. But it would all come down to one play. They butchered the clock management already, and now Jameis had a chance to bury all their sins and save them. 4 seconds left, game on the line, and just deflating, man. And the slippery slope they were on crumbled beneath them and submerged them into a pit of gasoline and liquefied dysentery. Because after an incredibly inspiring loss to the greatest team to ever take the field, it was Jover. By this point, Doug Martin's career was basically over due to injuries. The O-line sucked, and Jameis was 3rd in picks, 25th in passer rating, and 28th in completion percentage. But Jameis is not a mere mortal. He is a rare specimen that cannot be controlled by the football gods. And after starting 3-5, he took the Bucs' destiny into his own hands. Tampa won 5 in a row, just like that, and Jameis was improving rapidly. He was playing more conservative football, and the team as a whole was also playing some balanced ball. So now their quest was simple. Win 2 of their last 3 games to make the playoffs, and this seemed likely. They had both the Saints and Panthers on their schedule, 2 teams they'd already beaten who were also trash, but first up was Jameis's first Sunday Night Football game of his career, and their opponent, the red-hot Cowboys, led by their rookie duo taking the league by storm. The lights could not have been brighter, but they had a shot. In their 5-game win streak, the Bucs defense had blossomed into the best in football, and Dak was coming off a 40 passer rating game, so this was a perfect setup to show the world why you were the number 1 pick, Jameis. Instead, though, there was just shit everywhere. He finished the game with a 55 passer rating, threw 3 picks, was sacked 4 times, Zeke jumped into the red John, you know the drill, but it was fine, okay? They still had 2 chances, and Dallas was really good because after this loss, they now needed only 1 game to go their way for the rest of the season, but they lost to the Saints the week after anyways, as they could not recover from a Jameis pick to start the second half. So they finished 9-7 and missed the playoffs. Now, yes, they definitely were not making noise, especially with the Falcons in their division, who would go on to win the Super Bowl, but playoff experience, playoff experience is invaluable, and to miss that opportunity was rough, and you know, I think Bucs fans kind of accepted the tease that Jameis Winston was at this point. I mean, by year's end, even Tampa fans said he made a lot of plays that make you say, wow, both good and bad. So he was entertaining. It's just only for the rest of us, because the only thing Bucs fans cared about was how big the number was in front of the wins column by year's end. Except Jameis Winston made them care about some other things as well. And I could have mentioned this earlier, but I didn't for pacing reasons, but it turns out not everything that Jameis Winston did in his life was goofy and silly, and I don't know what else to say. There's no avoiding this because we do need to get down to this, find the truth on all of the allegations centered towards Jameis Winston, and let's look at his crime iceberg, okay? Let's do it. Let's see here. In level 1, we got the classic Jameis Winston crime that NFL teams almost always never look past. You know, this is a very serious crime here, but Jameis Winston, when he was younger, he refilled his cup at Burger King. I know, calm down, hold your horses. Very important to say allegedly, though, so I don't get sued, but even level 2, when we move up a little bit more, is pretty meh. He had a BB gun incident at college where apparently he caused minor property damage, which, you know, whatever, it happens, I guess. But then level 3 is the classic crab legs incident where the man stole some crab legs trying to say that a friend hooked him up, but even today he's still playing this one up for the trolls and lols. So we're still in goofy territory, but not for long. Still though, you could argue that level 4 is also pretty tame, as he ended up getting suspended for just a game in college because the man got up on a table and yelled, well, if you know, you know. And my man even tried to suit up for the game too, which went over very well with the coaching staff. But if this was it, then yes, this would just be a goofy quarterback with no real character concerns that at least can be molded into a more refined man, but there is one more level to this. Listen, so Jameis Winston's SA case is a sensitive subject to bring up, but it is an important part of Jameis Winston's story, obviously, and I implore you to do your own research, but to simplify the story, a student at Florida State eventually accused Winston of a very, very serious crime, but reported the incident immediately, and she underwent a kit exam which showed Winston's DNA, and she was described as having bruised knees and elbows, but nothing conclusively provided a lack of consent. But here's the issue, and where the corruption kind of ruined any real conclusion that I feel like I can come from this case, because it is clear to me that Florida State and the Fuzz tried to cover this thing up regardless of if it actually happened or not, which eventually led to the alleged victim receiving about $1 million from FSU. So that's the story. And look, I'm a believer in where there's smoke, there's fire. Winston probably at the very least took things too far, but the reality is 100% the victim's own school handled the situation as poorly as they possibly could have, and the corruption of the organization trying to cover up potential crimes for the sake of football is just terrible and disgusting. But the big problem with this whole thing is that something similar happened again with Jameis Winston, as in a few years he would be accused of allegedly groping an Uber driver. And this one is different because all signs point to him doing something inappropriate. He didn't have an alibi, and look, legally, people have argued he was never charged, but for me, regardless of how you feel about the validity of either woman's claims, at the very least, he did cause distress to 2 women, and hopefully not more. Is he completely guilty? Probably not, but is he completely innocent? Probably not as well. I don't know, though. Once again, I urge you to go do your own research and form your own opinions, but it's just, I don't know, with 2 victims and how horribly the school botched the first alleged crime, compared to situations like Deshaun Watson, it's so much tougher to figure out what actually happened. But regardless of the whole situation, the Buccaneers were expected to take a leap forward and make the playoffs coming into this season. And it was all going to come down to Jameis. This team was not going to win below like 6 games, but if they wanted to make a playoff push and cause real noise, they needed some development from Jameis Winston. And he had so many weapons too, bro. Godwin was here now. OJ Howard was a first-round tight end. Deshaun Jackson. They had everything. Please, Jameis, just develop for one time. And Week 1 was set to tell us everything, except Week 1 never even happened. The Bucs were set to play the Dolphins, but it got rescheduled due to a conflict of interest regarding numerous crustaceans found within the stadium, so this meant the Dolphins and Bucs would play later, which also forced Tampa to have a Week 1 bye, and 16 straight weeks of football, including Thursday and Monday games, which takes a bloody toll on the body, and the mental wear is rough. So that sucks, but maybe it won't matter, right? Because through the first 4 weeks of the season, the Bucs were fine. They went 2-2, beat 2 bad teams, and lost to 2 contenders after their kicking game was still atrocious, which was expected, but here's the issue. Jameis was playing well, which sounds dumb, right? But I think Bucs fans kind of realized this was his peak. His stats through 4 weeks of 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 92.4 passer rating were fine, but that superstar potential in him would never be fully realized. It just wouldn't. But the Jameis era had brought the consistency of choking, at least, which is something, because in week 5, they fucking did it again. Nick Folk, their kicker, who was here after the 1-year experiment of Roberto, missed a chip shot in that Patriots loss, like I said, and that really took the air out of this team. And instead of, helping the team's energy, Jameis gave each player a tank of benzene and forced them all to inhale, or in other words, someone let him give a pregame speech.
I say one thing,
Just an all-time classic. But honestly, the eating a dub speech is maybe not even top 5 in terms of Jameis speeches. Like, it's a classic, I get it, but bro, versus the Jaguars in the preseason, he got a little too lost in his own sauce when before the game he busted out a cheeky little rap thing, Dr. Seuss type beat. I don't know. He said,
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
The Bucks, Q's, and C's coming out that door.
The Bucks, Q's, and C's coming out that door.
Then 1 week after that preseason game, I don't know what he was experimenting with, but in the fucking preseason too, he said, I don't know nobody that's gonna let another man walk in their house and take something from them, so take that to heart. Okay, this is personal to me. What I got now in my pocket is a W. Y'all got it too. Brother, you're playing the Cleveland Browns in the preseason. Calm down. And this was the same Cleveland Browns team that didn't win a game. Funny enough, the Browns actually won every preseason game this year, but after that game, Winston talked to Deshaun Kaiser and infused him with wisdom and said, patience is the easiest way. Checking the ball down is the key to all of this. Take your time and never force anything. Bro! Do you remember who you are? Did I just read that correctly? Jameis is just, it's like he's playing my career as himself and constantly is picking the worst possible dialogue choice every time. But 2017 was a failure of a season again. He ended up suffering an injury, which didn't stop him from making an impact, poking Marshawn Lattimore in a game which started a brawl, and later led to another game versus the Saints where his coach almost fought Sean Payton, but Jameis himself finished the season on an alright note. He did lose to fucking Brett Hundley and the Aaron Rodgers-less Packers, who had 84 passing yards, but at this point, something had become clear, and it's the last thing you want to admit about a player, especially someone that was taken first overall, but Jameis Winston was not developing. He was the same guy he was his first season in the league. Still the same strengths, still the same weaknesses. Nothing had really changed for better or for worse. Was he going to play 5 great games a year? Yes, but he was also going to shit himself 5 times as well. And that's pretty much the main reason why Jameis Winston, still to this day, has never played in a playoff game. But the 2018 Bucs were going to see what life could look like without Jameis Winston, because he was suspended for the first 3 games of the season due to the Uber incident from earlier, and here's what I think is super interesting, because during this time, the narrative around Jameis was overwhelmingly toxic. Like, people did not like Jameis Winston whatsoever. Bucs fans didn't like him, and the NFL public was kind of saying that the only consistent thing about Jameis Winston was his ability to catch SA charges, basically. Or not charges, allegations, very important, but also, like, Tampa fans were pissed because they were like, bro, every week the dude either cooked like an 8 out of 10 reverse seared steak or he threw the John in the microwave and called it a day. Like, there was no other way around it. But for 3 weeks, when Jameis Winston was suspended, Buccaneer fans were freed.
It's nothing. I mean, I think we just have to stay humble, and we got to make sure we know how to handle success and all those things, so we can't change who we are.
Winston out, Ryan Fitzpatrick in, and Fitzpatrick out of scenic fuck all nowhere became the greatest quarterback in football. No, I am not yanking your chain. In the 3 weeks Jameis was gone, he averaged 410 yards per game, 3.7 touchdowns on a 124 passer rating. If he kept this up for the year, he would have had the best season in NFL history. He would have had 6,970 yards and 63 touchdowns. The world would have bowed down to our new overlord, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Alas, Doctor Strange did not choose that multiverse, and Fitzmagic was benched for Fitzception, and then Fitzception for Jameis Winston. And by the time Jameis came back, it seemed like his swagger and confidence were somewhat destroyed a bit. The team had a different vibe with Fitzpatrick, and you kind of felt that even watching the team now. Every mistake Jameis made, the cameraman zoomed in on Fitzpatrick. It was just kind of like the Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco thing from a few years back. The fans did not like Jameis, and they loved Ryan. And so Tampa gave the fans what they wanted, because after a game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, the decision was made to bench Jameis Winston. He had just played the worst game of his entire career with a seemingly, bad but not cataclysmic stat line of 4 picks, but the film shows some serious concerns. And this ended up being the most dysfunctional season the Buccaneers have had since then to this very moment. They fired their defensive coordinator mid-year, flip-flopped on QBs, and still somehow almost made the playoffs, as versus the Saints late in the year, they were up 14-3, then lost the game 14-28, and there went their playoff hopes, which led to Jameis and Ryan Jensen getting into a fight on the sidelines, which is always a very positive experience for teammates. So here we are in 2019, and at this point, Jameis Winston's career was just solidified as a complete bust of a draft pick. But the Bucs had one more year in his contract, so you might as well go all in, right? They hired Bruce Arians, who's the quarterback whisperer, basically. They hired Clyde Christensen, also an underrated hire. He was the quarterback's coach for the Bucs, and he worked with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, so these are two guys with the magic touch, right? Well, they basically brought in Bruce Arians, and the dude just looked at his play sheet, fed it to his pet Scolopendra, and said, you know what? Fuck it. I can't fix him. It's impossible, but damn it, we're just gonna let him loose and sell some fucking tickets, and boy, did that happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the magnum opus of all quarterbacking seasons ever. I mean, once again, the narrative at Jameis Winston was like the dude should be in jail. Everyone wanted him in prison, but you know what? If you can't be elite, you can at least be fun. And in 2019, fun he was.
Picked off! It's picked off! It's intercepted! Picked off! It's intercepted! Evans and Ogo.
To start the year, Tampa was 2-3 and were not good, despite an amazing core because they had some great players, especially on defense, but Jameis was entirely the reason they would win or lose. He threw a ridiculous amount of yards, touchdowns, and picks, and from weeks 6 through 12, we saw something from Jameis that we may never see again in this league. During this sample size, he averaged 48 pass attempts, 341 yards per game, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks, and a passer rating of 68.9. A game. The NFL record for pass attempts per game in a season is 45. I mean, what the hell is going on? The man only logged 3 games all season without a pick to this point, and with this insane volume, rumors began to spread about a possible 30 touchdown, 30 interception season. But for even a shot at that, he'd have to pick up the pace to be the lone holder of such a mythical stat. I mean, by the midway point of the season, even Bruce Arians was like, genuinely, I have no explanation for what I'm seeing. I'm not sure if I want to die or stand in awe at this horrid abomination of a football season that God himself clearly had no part in creating. And like, the stats back it up too, bro. Like, somehow in his career thus far, he's been the worst quarterback that qualified for the sample size at targeting his outside receivers, so sorry, Mike Evans, but also, he was the second best quarterback in football, second to only Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. at targeting the tight end. His combo with O.J. Howard was somehow rivaling Brady and fucking Gronk. So when you get into the advanced stats of 2019 and trying to decipher what the fuck was going on with Jameis Winston, I can totally see why Bruce Arians was pounding the vodka hard. And paint. No cost is too great in the pursuit of flavor, and Jameis kept airing it out. He had back-to-back 4-touchdown games versus the Lions and Colts, and then turned right around and deep-throated the whole barrel and fired, as he had 4 picks in a game versus Houston that pretty much ended his season. However, one game remained on their schedule in 2019. He had 31 touchdowns and 28 picks going into the season finale at home versus the Falcons. Could he do it? Could he throw 2 picks to be forever immortalized in NFL history as a lesson to all quarterbacks to never, ever, ever go full Jameis. But it just wasn't meant to be. He threw a pick early in the game, but this was it. The clock struck 0, and he finished just one pick shy.
And he does.
Oh my lord. We have a chance. We got overtime, and good golly, the football gods showed back up and took control of just one thing this entire season. They did not have a singular hand in the monstrosity that took place until now. Jameis dropped back, threw a pick, and the Falcons won the game on a walk-off pick 6 in overtime. Jameis got the 30 touchdown, 30 pick season, the most pick 6s in a season ever also, which also meant his first pass and his last pass ever as a Buccaneer were both pick 6s. The football gods work in mysterious ways. But I mean, what a year. He just finished with the 10th most passing yards in NFL history to this very moment, while also holding the record for the most turnovers by any player through their first 5 seasons. But despite the bad, some saw a redemption arc ahead, because he really had his moments still, and I mean, even Carson Palmer struggled mightily in his first year in a Bruce Arians offense, and what happened directly after that? He returned from injury and was second in MVP voting, and he cut down on his turnovers as well. So maybe if Jameis got another shot... Damn it, Tom! God, fuck me, man. Okay, well, that was it. After throwing for 5,000 plus yards, the Bucs let go of, at the time, the best quarterback in their franchise's history. And that was it. That was the end of the Jameis Winston era in Tampa. But Jameis had done it. He had revived his career in terms of the narrative and entertainment, and public perception of him went from almost only negative to mostly positive in just one season. And now in New Orleans, he would get a chance to learn behind Drew Brees and possibly revive his career, but he had other plans.
One of the best back tandems in the league, right? With Latavius and Alvin. I heard some Snickers, but excuse my language, right? Tandem was good.
He didn't play in 2020, but damn it, he was the team's spirit animal. Sadly, he was on the roster when they fell to none other than the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round, and watched as Drew Brees pretty much threw the game himself. And this was rough because Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with the very team he just quarterbacked months before, but hey, Drew Brees called it a career after 2020, so it was only going to be Jameis Winston and no one else in the quarterback room in the Big Easy, and the franchise had arrived. And you won't believe it, but Jameis played some good football until he broke his everything, and that was kind of the end of that. But he did Jameis things, okay? He had 5 touchdowns in his first game, then 1 week later proceeded to throw 0 touchdowns and 2 picks, as Jameis Winston would, but he was playing more conservative, smart football until, like I said, he suffered a season-ending injury versus, again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The football gods will not leave this man alone now, and Jameis Winston wasn't able to move for months. And this was kind of the last straw for Jameis Winston. It sucks, but in 2022, he started the year off slow, got injured, and then it was Andy Dalton time for the rest of the season. And by 2023, he was nothing more than a backup to Derek Carr, who they brought in, who also was having a rough season, leading to Saints fans booing Derek Carr and begging the Saints to put in Jameis Winston, because when you can't be good, you gotta be fun, which they did do, but I don't know what happened mindset-wise, but Jameis probably was just like, you know, I had a good time in 2019. I'm going to do that every time I see the field for the rest of my career, because you know what? I play fantasy football. Why not try to buff my receivers a bit? So when he got his chance again versus the Vikings in 2023, the dude took every shot he could, finishing with the most entertaining 120 yards and 2 picks you'll ever see from a quarterback. Oh, and he also ran up the score for a Jamal Williams touchdown versus Atlanta in the final week of the season, so always nice. And the next stop was Cleveland. And honestly, I think Jameis has just been operating on a different level of intellect than all of us, because he understands that at its core, football is a form of entertainment, and That's all he needs to provide to have a job. Dude just didn't care anymore. But it didn't even look like he'd get a chance to play. But Deshaun Watson was smited to hell. Dorian Thompson-Robinson proved to be one of the worst quarterbacks in modern NFL history. And now, here we were. More Winston football. The horse was prepared for battle. He had prayed to the Lord to chill out on the pick sixes, and he proceeded to throw some pick sixes, believe it or not. But when he got his shot again, he was just chucking it. We got peak Jameis ball versus the Broncos, where he had 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 picks, just eating everything on the table. He gave you it all, including 2 pick sixes in the same game. Never change your playstyle, Jameis. It is just too fun to watch. We'll see what happens with the Giants now, but he's just become the perfect guy to sell tickets, which is why I wanted to make this video, because it's so fascinating. Looking at the perception of how negative everyone thought of him as a person before 2019, and then to see the comments of how everyone feels about him today is just crazy. Like 98% of comments on other videos about Jameis Winston are all positive. I challenge you to think whatever you want about the man, but one thing's for certain, there is no other player like Jameis Winston in the NFL, and there never will be, ever again. But anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you did like this video, watch this video I did a few weeks back on the entire history of the Raiders. Thanks to all my Patreons for pledging money. It truly does mean a lot. But anyways, until next time.